So, hello everyone. We are a lot more rested and recuperated after the goings on of last night. I think we're all a little bit more like comfortable with the results at this point. But there's no time to rest on our laurels. We might as well get straight into the next semi-final, and that will be coming out tomorrow, the 20th of May. And 17 countries will be back to fight it out to see who can make it to the final. Um, as you know, we would have been following all of these rehearsals on our sites and stuff like that. So if you want our initial reactions to the sort of rehearsals, check them out over there. But
Ooh,
what?
I'll mention it at the end. I'll mention it at the end.
Oh, okay.
I mentioned Rosie
Interesting.
yesterday. So what I
Oh,
mentioned to you, Rosie, about the initial reactions.
okay. Well, in the meantime, let's just jump straight into it. Do you think you'd be able to come up with 10 qualifiers from this semi-final?
I've came up with 8, and then I've got like 4 that are very much on the cusp. So the 8 that I definitely think will qualify are Greece, Finland, Switzerland, Serbia, Iceland, San Marino, Bulgaria, and Portugal. I think these 8 will definitely qualify. And then I've got 4 that I'm having a debate over, and these are Austria, Denmark, Albania, and Moldova. I want Denmark and Albania to qualify. I think it'll be Austria and Albania. So I think I'll get my
Interesting.
way on one of them. But then there's part of me that thinks you have Moldova, Poland, and Denmark, who are all categorized as this disaster bop type thing. And then you've got to think one of them has to qualify. And part of me is like thinking, oh, it will be Moldova. It usually would be in this type of situation. But then you think about who's voting in this semi, and a lot of the countries voting in this semi are from the Western Bloc, and that may benefit Denmark. So, but ultimately, I've decided the juries are going to rank both these songs too low, and neither of them will make it just because there's so many jury-friendly songs in this semi. And it's a tough one between those 4 for me. I think any of those 4 could make it, and it all comes down to tonight and tomorrow night. I could go into the jury final tonight and completely change my mind on the Austria and Albania are the 2 that are going to make it. So, the ones that I think are dead in the water are Czech Republic, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, and Georgia. I really like the Czech Republic and Latvia songs. However, their stagings and some of the vocal performances that we've seen in the rehearsals have really not put me off, but like put me off putting them in this prediction video as predicted to qualify, and that makes me kind of sad, but sometimes it's the way it goes. Eurovision is
Interesting.
cruel.
Yeah, I definitely think there are some songs that are I think there's probably more certain qualifiers, but I think there's also more sort of room for other qualifiers, if that makes any sense at all. So for me, my certain qualifiers would be San Marino, Greece, Iceland, Serbia, Albania, Bulgaria, and Switzerland. And again, for most of the other songs, I could probably make a case for them qualifying. If I were to be choosing my songs that I would personally put through would be Czech Republic, Finland, and Latvia. But it's so hard.
What do you think?
I would really like to see both the Czech Republic and Latvia get to the final. And I know a lot of people are sort of doubting that, but Yeah, I think particularly Latvia is getting a lot of doubt as to whether it will get through or not. And I'm honestly, she's got probably the most unique female vocal in that semi. And not every single rehearsal she's given has been perfect, but her technique's incredible. And the way she sings is fantastic. And her stage presence is incredible. And still, as we saw last night, that's not enough to get you through at this point. So yeah, I really, really want to see Latvia there. Especially I want to see Samantha in the final, because she's been trying to get to Eurovision for so long. And she's brought something that is so unique, that is difficult and challenging. But if I were to probably compare this to a song in semi one, I think I would probably have to compare it to Australia. Again, woman with a song that has very unique vocals and a slightly off-center genre for Eurovision, both quite upbeat songs as well, both quite empowering songs. And Montaigne didn't make it through. And yes, she had sort of like technical disadvantages by not being able to have the same resources in Rotterdam as the same other artists. But I don't know. I don't know if that would be enough of a difference that would push Samantha into the final where Montaigne didn't make it. Yeah. I also think Austria will probably qualify. I can really see people going for that performance, I think.
Definitely, yeah. Just a second, I'm just going to quickly pause recording. So my sort of choices for this semi-final, I think I should preface this by saying this is easily the more unpredictable of the semi-finals. So I think it's definitely something that we need to be prepared for a couple of shocks. My sort of thinking is that there's at least 9 qualifiers that are already quite certain. And then there's one for me that is just, I don't know who, it's going to be so many countries fighting for it. So for me, the qualifiers are San Marino, Greece, Moldova, Iceland, Serbia, Albania, Portugal, Bulgaria, and Switzerland. And the other remaining spot is going to be either between Czech Republic, Latvia, or maybe even someone like Finland, or I mean, also Austria as well, because there's so many songs that are just so kind of impactful, and you couldn't get a more different kettle to fish in this semi-final than you could in any other one. And I think it's putting everyone at the same risk, which is kind of crazy, I guess, because, you know, literally going into rehearsals, we had thought that, oh, John's Tears was like the favorite to win. And then now, like, he's like not as much of a sure qualifier as we had originally hoped. He's still going to qualify. There's no doubt about that, but he's not going to win the semi. And I think that's going to really shift things around, I think. That, like, as well we saw last night, anything can happen and it can be incredibly unpredictable. For all we know, Denmark could make it through, which would be great, I guess, because it was the first time, I guess, since Leonora, but fully in at least about like maybe 20 years that we had a song that was in Danish in the final.
Like,
so
I think, for me, it's very rare that a song performs last and they don't qualify. You have to perform very badly and your song has to be very bad. And I don't think Denmark falls into the very bad category. And I don't think they performed it very badly in rehearsals either. So it's a weird one, because typically you'd just think it's performing last in the semi. It's the last song of the whole of the semi-finals. You would think it was safe, and it's not.
Yeah, look at Triana Park as well in 2017.
That was, yeah.
And
Like,
yeah.
I don't know if the EBU was trying to prove a point with Denmark and in saying it just because you perform last does not mean you are a safe qualifier. I don't know if that was their thinking, but yeah, Denmark could mess up a lot of people's predictions tomorrow. That's why I put them 11th is my prediction.
Oh wow.
So
I mean,
yeah.
let us practice shot qualifying on each other. I think that's essentially what they were getting on, I think, in terms of what the song was about. No.
Honestly, I imagine that the UK jury is probably going to rank them pretty highly. And I know one jury isn't going to make or break a semi, but honestly, I imagine it's exactly the sort of thing they would go for.
It's the exact thing that our jury would give 12 points to and then be ripped to shreds for doing so.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, juries are anonymous until the grand final, so we have no idea who the jury actually is. So who knows? I mean, hopefully, fingers crossed, they have a little bit of taste. Just a little bit.
Are you saying I have no taste for having them 17th in my overall top?
I mean, your words, not mine, but no. In terms of the ones that I think are going to be dead in the water, I think the only sort of major ones that are definitely not qualifying are Estonia, Poland, and Georgia. They're the only three that I can definitely say that are not going to qualify. They're going to give it a really good go, and I'm going to be very happy for them, but it's not the right style. It's not the right time for them. Had they had submitted that maybe 10 years prior, it would be completely different, but we've moved past that now. But yeah, what are your kind of expectations for the semi-final?
After last night, my expectations are so low that honestly, I'm just trying not to get my hopes up about anything at this point. I'm just wounded. I'm just hurting.
I don't know. If Finland don't qualify, I'll be really, really sad. And yeah, I can almost see it happening. I have put them as a definite qualifier, but I don't know if I'm in denial because it's quite clear with the performance, the juries are just not going to go for it. But I really hope the televote elevates it, and you would think this type of song that they would. But then again, you do have to think about where it is in the running order, and after Victoria gives such a touching performance, it could put people off. In the same vein. So it's going to be a tough one.
I think it's true.
I feel like this one's the one that's going to hurt us more almost. Because I feel like with this semi-final, everybody has very different opinions about what they want to go through. I think we've just seen doing this video, our opinions of what we want are very, very different.
I think there's some that we all collectively want to get through, and there's ones that we definitely collectively think will get through. But in those last couple of spaces that we don't even know how many people will actually be certain qualifiers, it really just comes down to their performances tonight and their performances on tomorrow night's show. And I am kind of scared. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of my favorites. So in the semi-final, I will be having Portugal. I'll also be having Latvia and Switzerland, and of course San Marino and Czech Republic as well. And
we've had the confirmation.
We do. We now have full confirmation. He has now performed in at least one dress rehearsal. So Flo Rida is 100% going to be at the contest. And I genuinely don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I feel like that kind of moves me on to what we think will come last in the semi.
Yeah.
Because I feel... before Uku was in trouble, but now that Flo Rida is coming and he's performing first, I think Uku may just come last. He's just going to get so overshadowed.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think the last place is probably between Estonia and Poland. And I hate saying that because I spoke to Rafal the other day. Check out our interview if you want to. And he was such a lovely human being. And honestly, the ride is one of my biggest guilty pleasures this year. But I just do not see it qualifying. I think Estonia possibly gives a slightly better performance. I think Poland will probably have more people vote for it and more people who will want to vote for it. So it's a kind of, again, it's sort of a toss-up between the jury and the televote and who ends up in which spot in both of those.
I think it probably will come down to the Estonia and Poland, although if people really don't latch on to Denmark, I could potentially see that coming last as well. But that would be in a very like drastic situation.
I feel like Denmark is a very obvious. I think it's out of all the songs this year, it's one of those songs that's like screamed 11th place.
A bit like how Serhat was in 2016.
Yeah.
You know, everyone thought he was going to come last, and then all of a sudden he managed to beat Greta Salome, who was like one of the fan favorites. So you can't trust those types of songs, I guess.
Yeah, but at least Jesper and Lauritz actually can hold a tune. And I say that with all of the affection for Serhat in the world, that at least Jesper and Lauritz can sing.
Yeah,
that's if they get through the song without any technical hitches, because we saw in their rehearsals that was not happening. And if that happens in the jury final tonight, like it did with Roxanne in semi 1,
I don't know how well that is going to do then. I think, okay, one more second, let me pause the recording again. So yes, so obviously we have our predictions for who's going to come last, but who do you think is going to win the semi-final now?
I think for me it's between two choices, and they are Bulgaria and Switzerland. I think both of those songs are kind of in leagues above the others, from a technical perspective, from a vocal perspective, from a song perspective. I think they are sort of on a different level to every other song in that semi. And if it's not either of them, I will be very, very surprised.
I'm going to completely go against what Rosie said, because I feel like the Flo Rida effect will have an effect on the jurors and the televoters. They're going to want Flo Rida in the final. Like, I think San Marino has this in the bag for the semi at least.
Interesting. I'm going to...
I could see San Marino being a third placer. Definitely. And honestly, like, I know there's been some sort of concern over Senet's vocals, but she's delivered every performance I've seen that she's done. So
I feel like in the pre-parties, maybe she was holding back for like the rehearsals.
Yeah, possibly. She's nailed every performance of hers I've seen over the last couple of weeks. So I have no doubt that she'll put in a strong enough performance for both the juries and the televote to rank her highly.
Definitely. I think it's definitely a contender for really, really high placing. Potentially the win. I wouldn't be averse to it happening. Again, Switzerland is going to rank really highly with the juries, but then as well, we could have a complete bombing in the televote. Like, there's so much unpredictability. But I really upset with bombs. I do think though that we are missing potentially one country in this mix, and it could potentially be Iceland.
Oh.
Now, Iceland, obviously, at the moment, as we are recording, Iceland have formally withdrawn from performing live as a result of Johan, one of the members of Gagnamagne, testing positive. And Daði and co have, you know, banded together, and they're saying that they're not going to perform without him, which is fantastic. But also, I do think potentially that might have an effect on who votes for it, especially with, you know, countries where think about things performed very well within the charts, you know, so we're talking about the UK here, we're talking about possibly France too. All of these countries that have fairly high, you know, they know who Daddy and Gardner Magnet is. So I think it's definitely, I wouldn't entirely rule it out, to be honest. But yes.
I've kind of forgotten they were in there because I've almost sort of blocked them out given they're only going to be using the rehearsal tape. But yeah, I absolutely could see that happening as well.
I think it's that's a time to say that we wish that Johan gets well soon, and we hope to see them back on a live stage at some point very soon as well.
Very
and
soon.
We're so sorry it won't be at Eurovision.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, they're planning on doing a European, US and UK and Ireland tour. So I think, you know, when they're coming around to either Leeds or Manchester, I think we will be at the front row throwing them support, you know, like, here's my underwear, you know, like that kind of thing.
I thought you said you'd be throwing them some porn, and I was like, what?
Look, I don't know what they want. Oh, God. But no, do we have any sort of final points just before we wrap this video up?
This is going to be one unpredictable ride, and I don't think anybody's ready.
When you say ride, do you mean the ride of your life?
Yeah. Should we hold on real tight and make it all right?
Get your sunglasses ready.
Oh, God. Well, in the meantime, that does take us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please, you know, subscribe to us on that Eurovision site and everything like that. We will be going live again for our sort of reaction to the qualifiers, and then our sort of decompressing debrief after the press conferences. So, you know, stay tuned to our YouTube channel for that as well, so you'll always know. And yes, follow us on all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, whatever your heart desires, you know. And yeah, follow us as well for our live tweeting. We will be live tweeting both the jury final tonight and the live semi-final tomorrow. So we are in for a lot of extra heartbreak, but you know what? At least we're getting a Eurovision in the end. So I guess it's worth it. Anyway, shall we all say goodbye?